Number 1. The truth about mermaids. Forget the Disney songs and sparkling tales. Real mermaids aren't the stuff of fairy tales. Ancient sailors feared them. Legends describe them as sea-dwelling creatures with the upper body of a woman and the lower half of something far more monstrous. Scaly, serpentine, and soaked in saltwater decay. They weren't singing to charm, they were luring. In some stories, mermaids would call out from the rocks, pretending to need help, only to drag sailors into the depths. Others say they'd capsize boats for sport, feasting on the drowned corpses. Even Christopher Columbus claimed to see them, except they weren't beautiful at all. He described them as not half as pretty as they are painted. Some historians believe these sightings were really manatees, seen by tired, half-mad sailors. But across cultures, Greek, Celtic, even Japanese mermaids have always been more horror than fantasy. Modern pop culture has painted them in glitter and innocence. But if you dig into the old stories, there's blood beneath the waves, sharp teeth, cold eyes, and the sound of a song that doesn't comfort, it kills. So next time you hear a voice at sea, calling sweetly from the fog, don't follow it. You might never come back. Number 2. The dark side of fairies. Wings, glitter, magic wands. That's what we think of when we hear fairy. But the original stories? Much darker. In Celtic and European folklore, fairies weren't tiny helpers. They were dangerous, unpredictable, and sometimes deadly. They lived in hidden realms, but they'd cross into ours to steal, curse, or even kill. One of the most chilling legends? The changeling. It was said that fairies would kidnap human babies and replace them with one of their own. Sickly, odd, and never quite right. Mothers were told to watch for strange behavior, constant crying, cold skin, or a baby that suddenly didn't look familiar. If they suspected a changeling, the advice was brutal. Some were told to abandon the child, others to burn it. Fairies were also blamed for lost travelers, strange illnesses, or people who simply vanished. You weren't supposed to say their name out loud, and if you stepped into a fairy ring, you might never return. Today's fairies are cute, helpful, and friendly, but in older tales, they were tricksters, kidnappers, sometimes killers. So the next time you see something shimmering in the woods, don't follow it. It might not be magic, it might be a warning. Number 3. Leprechauns. Greedy tricksters, not lucky charms. We picture them as tiny men with green coats, gold coins, and maybe a rainbow or two. But the original leprechaun? Far from friendly. In Irish folklore, leprechauns were reclusive, mischievous, and dangerous if crossed. They weren't symbols of luck, they were warnings. Tales say they guarded pots of gold, but anyone who tried to steal it faced a cruel fate. They'd trick you, curse you, or lead you into the woods where you might never come back. They were known for leading people in circles, driving them mad with laughter, or whispering lies into their ears. Some said they could make you rich if you caught one, but holding on to a leprechaun was nearly impossible. Blink once and he'd vanish, taking your sanity with him. One eerie legend tells of a man who caught a leprechaun and forced him to reveal his gold's location. The leprechaun pointed to a tree and swore it was buried there. The man tied a red ribbon around the trunk and went home for a shovel. When he returned, every tree in the forest had a red ribbon. Leprechauns aren't lucky. They're watching, and they never forget a thief. Number 4. Unicorns. Not the gentle beasts you think. Glitter, rainbows, and magic. That's how we picture unicorns today. But the original legends? Far darker. In ancient times, unicorns weren't soft, white horses with pastel manes. They were wild, untamable beasts, massive, with twisted horns and blood-stained hooves. Their horns weren't for granting wishes, they were weapons. And they didn't come to little girls in dreams, they came to hunters in nightmares. Some myths say unicorns could stab a man through the heart with a single charge. Others claimed their blood was cursed. Drink it and you'd live forever, but suffer a half-life, cursed and hollow, the kind of immortality that made you beg for death. In the Middle Ages, unicorns became symbols of purity, but even then, the only way to catch one was cruel. Hunters used young virgins as bait. The unicorn, drawn to innocence, would lay its head in her lap, and then the trap would close. Spears, nets, screams? That's not magic. That's manipulation. So next time you see a sparkly unicorn on a notebook or toy, remember, they were never meant to be cute. They were meant to be feared. Number 5. Genies. The tricksters of smoke and sand. Rub the lamp, make a wish, get anything you want. That's the story we're told. But the truth about genies, also known as jinn, is far more terrifying. In ancient Middle Eastern folklore, jinn are not playful wish granters. They're ancient spirits made of smokeless fire, invisible, powerful, and deeply unpredictable. Some live in desolate deserts, abandoned buildings, or even shadows. They can possess people, drive them mad, ruin lives. And if you ever do encounter one, you better be careful for what you ask for, because jinn don't just twist wishes. They weaponize them. Wish for money? You might inherit a fortune after your entire family dies. Wish for love? You could end up obsessed, haunted, unable to sleep. Many stories warn that once a jinn takes an interest in you, it never leaves. Even destroying the object it's bound to won't guarantee your safety. Some jinn are said to disguise themselves, appearing as helpful strangers, animals, even friends, just to trick you into letting them in. So no, not all genies live in lamps, and not all of them wait to be summoned. Sometimes they're already watching. And the real horror? They don't grant wishes, they test them. Number 6. Goblins. We often see goblins as clumsy, comedic comedic villains in cartoons, easily outsmarted or even as goofy sidekicks. But the original goblin? Much more sinister. In older European folklore, goblins are malevolent, mischievous, and often grotesque beings associated with caves, darkness, and cruelty. They are not just naughty, they are genuinely dangerous. They are known for stealing and hoarding not just gold, but anything shiny or valuable. Their mischief isn't harmless either. They play cruel tricks, lead travelers astray, or inflict minor curses and bad luck. Some tales describe them kidnapping children, replacing them with sickly duplicates, or simply to cause distress. When encountered, even small goblins can be brutal and dangerous, especially if they are numerous. They represent a primal fear of grotesque, unpredictable malevolence lurking in the shadows. Number 7. The nymph in the woods. They say nymphs are beautiful spirits of nature, but legends say some don't just watch you in the forest, they wait. In ancient Greek myths, nymphs were guardians of rivers, trees, and mountains. But some tales warn about Hylas, a young man who vanished after being lured by water nymphs. He was never seen again. Locals believed they dragged him below the surface to keep him. Not all nymphs are gentle. Some are known as lampades, dark torchbearers of the underworld who lure travelers off their paths. They laugh softly, just out of sight, leading you deeper into the trees, until you're lost, and the light never returns. Even in modern forests, hikers have reported strange lights flickering in the distance, or laughter echoing with no source. Some swear they saw a pale figure watching from behind a tree, beautiful, silent, unmoving. But when they blinked, she was gone. So if you ever wander through the woods and hear a soft giggle, don't follow it, because not all nymphs want to be found. Some want you to disappear. Number 8. The Song of the Sirens. They're often drawn as beautiful women on rocks, singing sweet songs to the sea. But the truth about sirens? It's far more terrifying. In ancient myths, sirens weren't mermaids. They were bird-like creatures with women's faces, monstrous beings perched on jagged cliffs. Their voices were so hypnotic that sailors steered straight into shipwrecks just to reach them. The sirens didn't save the men. They devoured them. The Greek hero Odysseus only survived by plugging his crew's ears with wax and tying himself to the mast. But not every sailor was that lucky. Ships would crash, men would drown, and the sirens would sing again. Even today, legends linger along coastal towns. Stories of ghostly songs heard over rough waters. Some fishermen say the sound draws them further out to sea until they lose their bearings entirely. And sometimes their boats are found, but the men never are. So if you're near the shore and hear a beautiful melody calling to you from the waves, don't listen. Because not all songs are meant to be heard, and not all singers are human. Number 9. Kitsune, the fox with 1,000 faces. At first glance, a kitsune is just a fox, clever, fast, and graceful. But in Japanese folklore, it's far more than that. Kitsune are shapeshifters. They can take the form of a beautiful woman, a wandering traveler, even someone you know. But beneath the disguise is a fox spirit, often centuries old, with powers you can't imagine. Some are benevolent, acting as messengers of the gods. But others? They're cruel tricksters who feed on fear, seduce their victims, and drive them mad. In one story, a man marries a mysterious woman, only to discover too late that she's a kitsune. Her illusion breaks, revealing glowing eyes, fangs, and 9 swirling tails. She vanishes, but the man never recovers. Kitsune are said to live for hundreds of years, growing more powerful and more dangerous with each tale they gain. When they reach 9, they can bend time, possess minds, even kill with a thought. To this day, people in rural Japan leave offerings near old trees and shrines, just in case a kitsune is watching. So if someone new appears in your life, and they seem too perfect to be real, they might not be. Number 10. Elves, the beautiful ones who curse. In fantasy movies, elves are always the heroes. Tall, graceful, wise. But the elves of ancient folklore, not so friendly. In Old Norse and Celtic legends, elves were tricksters, mischievous at best, malevolent at worst. They lived in hidden worlds, deep forests, hollow hills, or mounds glowing under moonlight. And if you stumbled into their domain, you might never return. People blamed elves for nightmares, sudden sickness, even missing children. They believed these beings could cast elf shot, invisible arrows that struck you with pain. Others claimed elves would lure humans into dances that lasted all night, but when the victim returned home, years had passed. In Iceland, they're still taken seriously. Roads have been redirected to avoid elf territory. Construction projects paused when machines mysteriously stopped working. Elves may be beautiful, but behind the glowing skin and piercing eyes is something ancient, something that doesn't like being disturbed. So next time you feel watched in the woods or hear music with no source, don't follow it, because if the elves want you, you're already theirs. Number 11. Selene. The moon's gentle light hides a dark gaze. You've probably seen her in paintings, graceful, glowing, riding a silver chariot across the night sky. Selene, the Greek goddess of the moon, seems peaceful, serene, beautiful, but legends say otherwise. Selene didn't just watch the world from above, she fixated on it, especially on a mortal named Endymion. She saw him sleeping one night and became obsessed. So obsessed, she asked Zeus to put him in an eternal slumber, just so she could visit and admire him forever, night after night. He couldn't move, couldn't speak, just lay there as a living statue. That's not love, that's possession. Some versions say she had 50 daughters with him while he slept, bound by her will. Others say Selene controls dreams, slipping into minds while they rest, planting visions and desires. A silent watcher behind every moonbeam. And when the moon is full, That's when her gaze is strongest. So if you've ever felt unsettled under moonlight, like something is staring, maybe it's not your imagination. Because Selene doesn't just rise with the night, she watches, she waits. Number 12. Dryads. The trees are alive and they're listening. In stories, dryads are nature spirits, gentle, shy, and one with the trees. They're often shown as beautiful women who protect forests and vanish into bark when frightened. But the original myths were never that soft. Dryads aren't just caretakers, they are the trees. If a tree is harmed, the dryad feels pain. If the tree dies, so does she. That kind of bond can twist love into fury. In ancient Greece, it was said that cutting down a sacred tree could bring down a curse. Men who tried would vanish in the woods. Strange whispers followed them, and sometimes their bodies were found, limbs snapped, eyes wide open, mouths full of leaves. They say dryads don't scream, they creak, like old wood bending under pressure. And if you disrespect their forest, the trees seem to shift behind you. Branches reach just a little too far, roots trip your steps. They're not just spirits, they're guardians. So next time you step into a forest and feel the air grow still, pay attention. Because that rustling above you might not be the wind. If you enjoyed the video, please drop a like and hit that subscribe button. Leave me a comment down below on what topic you'd like me to cover next.